The decision by Sweden and Finland to join NATO is truly historic and is truly path-breaking for both countries. The straw that broke the camel's back that really created this historic shift and created the momentum for it was seeing Russia brazenly and without cause invade Ukraine and then commit war crimes on Ukrainian territory. When there started to be news reports that Sweden and Finland were considering joining NATO, you saw a lot of very verbose comments from Russian officials, all saying that this would have devastating consequences for Sweden and Finland and warning them about the potential retribution that would be coming for them should they make the decision to join. However, once they made the decision to join, Vladimir Putin basically played it off that nothing significant had happened, that this is not a big deal, that this has no real significant consequences for Russia. And I think what you saw there is that there's very little that Russia can do about Sweden and Finland joining.
У нас нет ничего, что нас могло бы беспокоить с точки зрения членства Финляндии или Швеции в НАТО. Ну, хочется им, пожалуйста, только...
Well, there are a number of technical criteria for countries to join the NATO alliance, and Sweden and Finland meet all those. They have advanced militaries that operate NATO-compliant equipment and have strong rule of law, and both are strong democracies. So both sort of check all the boxes when it comes to attractive candidates to join NATO. But the process is not easy, and it's for a very important reason. It's because when you join a military alliance, when you gain that Article 5 commitment that an attack on one is an attack on all, it means that every country has to be ready to come to the defense of others. What NATO requires is that the parliaments and national legislatures of the 30 NATO members all approve. And so the US Senate will have to approve that Sweden and Finland become members, as will other legislatures and parliaments across the NATO alliance. I think there's wide expectation that this is going to move fairly quickly now that the leader of Turkey, Erdogan, has removed a potential veto that Turkey was placing on Sweden and Finland joining. The hope is the ratification process moves fairly swiftly throughout 2022 and then wraps up either by the end of the year or early in 2023. When you look at what Sweden and Finland bring to the table, and this is, I think, the critical point, is that both are very capable countries, both have very capable militaries, both are extremely professional, and both have a real interest in deterring Russia. And when you look at the military assets they have, they are not an added burden on the NATO alliance. In fact, they really strengthen the NATO alliance. Finland, of course, shares a massive border with Russia. It's more than 1,000 kilometers, and Finland has fought multiple wars against Russia throughout its history, including in the 20th century. As a country, they are prepared for a total defense where they would call on all aspects of their population to engage in resistance against a potential Russian invasion. So this is a country that is deadly serious about defense and is really focused on the main threat that it potentially faces, which is the threat posed by Vladimir Putin's Russia. I think both Sweden and Finland joining NATO demonstrates the total folly of Russia invading Ukraine, and that it's had the exact opposite effect that Vladimir Putin intended. Instead of weakening NATO, it has strengthened NATO. NATO is a stronger, more focused military alliance, and it's focused on the threat posed by Russia. When you have a clear focus, a clear adversary, that really sharpens the mind, and that is what we're seeing in the NATO alliance. That NATO is coming out of this much stronger, and Sweden and Finland make NATO a much stronger fighting force and something that will lead to much regret in the Kremlin.